Remember, I told you I had the dream. I handed it to those two women, and they were wearing the same identical outfits that I had the dream. It was crazy. It was just, I'm serious, great. One was in a red dress and the other was in a floral dress. And I'll never forget, I handed that Scantron booklet and the Scantron on top. And in my dream, they scanned it. And then there was a big TV behind me and the words pass were there, PASS, and the word yes. And the irony of it is that's what it looked like on the website online. And that's why I was laughing because I was like, I envisioned this natural. That's how crazy it is.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. I am so excited today because we've got a new passing member of the Florida Bar. But not only is this story great, this guy is great, and I got a chance to know him a little bit. Welcome, James Botkins. How are you?
Good. Hi, Jackson. How are you doing? I'm very happy.
Yeah, I love the shirt you're wearing. You want to tell everybody what it says there?
It just says Rocky Marciano, 1952. He was the undefeated world heavyweight champion.
Absolutely, man. And, you know, there's kind of a boxing story, a little symbolism there, a little Rocky that we've got that we're going to talk a little bit about later, because I know that's not a random shirt you picked out today, right?
That's correct.
All right, good. Well, I know you've just gotten the results, and it's sort of like that overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, here it is. But it's been a real climb for you, a real challenge for you to get to this point. And I'd love to begin by just asking you to tell a little bit of your story, how you got to the point of taking the bar exam, and then we'll pick it up from there and talk about what you did.
The journey started for me. I had used a big box bar review and passed the Florida bar. Unfortunately, I didn't pass the multi-state section, and I wasn't happy with the information and the practice questions they provided because after the exam, I felt it wasn't a real representation of what was tested. So I was basically trying to figure out what to do. You know, I went online and every bar review was the same, the big box ones, and I just didn't want to go there. And I think by divine intervention on Facebook, and I don't follow hardly anything, your ad popped up, and I clicked on it, and I remember these words: "This will be your last bar exam." And when I did that, I was like, I think this is the person for me. So I clicked on your website and reviewed it, and then set up an appointment to talk with you and shared my scores with you. And you said, listen, I've got a game plan for you. And if you follow my approach, you're going to pass and you'll be done. And lo and behold, I'm here today to say it did. It worked. I followed it to the T, and I'm happy to say I'm a member of the Florida Bar. Well,
Yeah,
until I get sworn in, but I
yeah. That's great. Congratulations. It's got to feel like a weight off your shoulders.
It does. It felt like a sword was hanging over my head the whole time, and it was a different approach. And I had never been so relaxed going into the exam. I had never felt more confident. I didn't have that confidence with the big box bar review at all whatsoever. I felt they put more panic, stresses, and anxieties on me than I needed in order to be successful. And my score just shot up. And I implemented the strategies you told me to follow, and the paraliminals, photo reading, mind mapping. You will laugh. I have sitting next to me, no exaggeration, 25 art booklets of mind mapping for the subjects I did. I think I'm going to sell them at an arts and crafts show down in South Tampa and autograph them. But they
Cool.
were very helpful, and it just made the process so much easier going into the exam.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit. We're going to focus today a lot on multi-state. And I know that one of the questions that people often ask is, how do you raise a multi-state score? Um, and I think one of the things that you would probably say is it's not always about how much you study as much as it is the way you study. Is that a fair statement?
That is very fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you took a very different approach with us than the traditional big box approach. When you did the big box, could you describe what that process was like for you?
Oh, yes. It was very long lectures that lasted about a week. And then the questions, they were so adamant that you do almost 2,500 practice questions. And it was very overwhelming when you're doing both the state and the multi state. And it was just, and memorization, that's what they kept preaching, and the elements and all those things. And I just felt that I was spending so much time, you know, with that and outlining. That was the other thing. And I even did note cards. I remember when I spoke with you, throw them away. And I must have had thousands of note cards, and none of it just didn't work. And so I just felt that I didn't feel the same, um, or like they cared, or that they were genuine in what they were trying to do. I just felt like it was the same repetitive statements. Just keep doing it, keep plugging away, keep memorizing, put in, 14 hours a day. You'll get there. It'll all come together. And, when it didn't, when I did the practice tests and so forth, I felt like, okay, I feel like I'm not getting something here, or what am I doing wrong? And then after I got my results, that was my instinct. I was like, it was a disservice. I was very
Yeah.
disappointed in them.
And you're a really smart guy. This is not the first advanced education you've done in your life, right?
No, not at all. Worked in a law firm while studying for the exam, and I know that my employer was very accommodating and working with me and so forth, and knew how important it was to me. So I was very grateful for that. But working in a law firm, especially in Florida, helped me tremendously with the Florida portion of the exam. I just had my difficulties with the multi-state because of the methodology in which the tools they provided and how to take the exam. And I can honestly say that I was trying to really strong arm the test. I was trying to go through and read and go, okay, here are the elements, okay, here, and then narrow it down to two answers, and having no luck. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I've memorized everything. I don't know what's going on. When I do Florida, I do fine. And I passed that with flying colors. That was
Yeah.
no difficulty at all.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the strategy that we used, that we employed with you. It really had several different components to it. One was photo reading. I want to talk about
Correct.
that. Another was mind mapping, and yeah, definitely want to talk about that. You also attended our boot camp, the live session that we did, and that's where you and I got a chance to spend some time together, which was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. That
Yeah,
was. It was
Eh,
great to meet you face to face.
yeah, I'm real.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
It's like, oh, yeah, he's actually bigger than the screen. Let's go back and talk about what photo reading is and what difference it made for you. Because one of the questions I get from a lot of people, James, is would photo reading make a difference for me? I mean, what is this thing we hear you talking about all the time? What is it? Does it work?
Photo reading does work. I will tell you that your boot camp was invaluable because it made me understand photo reading better. When I first heard you first talk with you about it, I thought it was having photographic memory, and I was totally wrong. That was a misconception by myself, or on my own. And so, after being able to talk with you and go to the website and listen to the audio and go through the workshop, I guess if you would call it that, then I got a little bit clearer picture. But the boot camp enabled me to incorporate it and feel comfortable with it and trust it. I kept saying to myself, trust the process. I'm a huge Kentucky basketball fan, and I use analogies all the time. And Coach Cal always would tell freshmen that they have the worst habits, bad habits they learned in high school, and you have to let that go and just trust the process and what he's doing. And so I envisioned you like that, and then so I had to let all that go, and then understand photo reading. And when going to the boot camp, and you had Millicent there, she was so visual, and and made you feel so comfortable in understanding it and playing with it. And so all of a sudden, I just started to do that. And the more and more I got towards the exam date, it was natural. I mean, I enjoyed photo reading, and in those audio tapes, it talks about having a smile here and in your eyes, and I kept getting that. And individuals thought I was nuts. And even when I went to the bar exam, I was sitting in the parking garage. I was photo reading before the exam, and you should have seen people walking past me. They thought I was nut. And so I just kept doing it. I didn't care. I knew what I was going to do, and be successful. And I even did that at lunch, and I even got more stares. But it works.
Yeah. How long did it take you to read a multi-state outline? Let's say you're doing the contracts outline. If you were photo reading it, how long would it take you to photo read?
Less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was very
Um,
quick.
yeah. So you were able to photo read these outlines. I don't know. How many times would you guess?
Uh, I honestly, I did it every day. I got more comfortable after boot camp in January, and before I would start, I would listen to the Paraliminals
Yeah.
And do those first, and then I would just do the whole outline. I know why I got so comfortable is that I only would do just one topic. It was contracts or comm law. But then after a while, I just started saying, you know what, I'm going to do all 7 topics. And I just kept doing it. And I
Yeah.
felt it wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah.
So might as
Right.
well do it. And I would do it. So that took, honestly, that would be about 15, 20 minutes if you did all 7 topics.
I just want everybody to be clear. What he's saying is he read 2 thick books, about 800 pages worth of material in 15 or 20 minutes, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you didn't read line for line, word for word. You didn't create flashcards. You didn't memorize, right? None of those things. Okay. So
No.
we'll come back to this in a minute. Now, you mentioned paraliminals, and I think we want to talk about those as well, because that's another tool that we invite people to use. Can you describe what a paraliminal is and how you used it?
Yes. It's an audio device of online. You can listen to it in MP3. You have to forgive me. I'm not very tech savvy, but it allows you to. It puts you in a frame of mind. It gets you into a relaxed state, so you can study and kind of block out the noise and the drama before studying. And I would do those before studying as well as going to bed. And there's various titles of CDs they have online that are conducive to incorporate and implement into studying, and they're just very good. And the thing that you have to do is break yourself of dreading to do photo reading or the paraliminals and think of it as added work. It's not added work. It's beneficial. It's
Yeah.
just part of the process. And if you do that, then it makes the studying. I hate to say this, it's more fun because then you start to see the results and you get it. You know, it's starting to click.
Yeah. And the paraliminal takes about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, right, to listen to.
Yes, yes, and usually I just whatever paraliminals you had recommended that, or other students in the course that highly recommend them, I just went on there and of course purchased them, or they have various things that Celebration
Yeah.
would provide to a student.
Yeah. So you listen to the paraliminal, then you photo read,
Yes,
then you created a mind map. Now, I'm
correct.
just going to ask, do you happen to have any of those mind maps handy?
Yeah, yes, I do. I
All
actually,
right, oh, look at that.
yeah,
Holy moly.
yeah.
Look at that.
I think I bought everything from
Yeah.
Staples, and
Oh, wow.
so
Look at
these.
this, folks.
Yes, this is just one booklet now, and I'm not exaggerating. I have one banker's box full of all 7 topics
Wow.
for the questions.
Okay, so what was the purpose of the mind map? What were you trying to do with those?
It was to activate um, the photo reading as well as the practice questions.
Hmm.
It was similar to journaling when you made a mistake, and
Hmm.
so the mind mapping helped. Um, like a tree. It was you started with the base of the tree, and then it went into the limbs, and then to the branches, and then you would go through the questions, and if there was a various topic that's tested, you would go into that. Like in con law, say due process, and you would put due process, and then you would go through the various branches that would grow from due process, and so it basically reinforced the material that if you got it right, and then if you got it wrong, it would start to allow you to get an understanding of it as you began to put it together, and you could incorporate that into the map.
So what was the difference between this approach of mind mapping, which was visual, and a linear system of just pure note taking? Because you've done plenty of linear note taking in the past.
Absolutely. It was more of conscious versus non-conscious. That my non-conscious brain, I could retrieve that material better than my conscious brain because I'm trying to focus everything here, and I'm trying to recall it, and then I get aggravated if I can't remember. Versus the other way, when I would do that, I could read a question and I could visualize it in my mind, the branch and the terms, and all of a sudden I could get to the answer immediately. So that was the difference. And I didn't feel stressed. I felt
Yeah.
relaxed. And I never felt I didn't know enough. I felt that the tools that I had were sufficient to get to answer a
Yeah.
question. And I
So
didn't worry.
right, which is a big deal. I mean, worry
Yeah.
is a big thing. How long would it take you to do an initial mind map on a subject? Because I'm sure people are going to look at those mind maps and go, oh my gosh, it must take thousands of hours to create those.
No, within your syllabus, you were very adamant to be sure to do everything in the 3-hour time
Yeah.
allotted. I will say when I first started, and you saw me at boot camp.
Right.
I may have gone over that 3 hour, maybe did 4.5 hours, only because when doing the mind map, it was not so much trying to memorize. It was that I was trying to be very neat and trying to keep it organized. And then once I got good at it, then the times got within the allocated time. So at first you might do a little bit more, but it's okay because you're learning. So
Yeah.
then as you start getting more deeper into the questions, as you get past 30, 60, and 90, then it's speeding up because you've already done the map in that particular region. You can just start adding to it. So that's the only thing. I swear I did go over a little bit at first, but after that I stayed within the confines of what you said to do.
Yeah. And I'm not sure it would be clear to everybody, but basically what James was doing is he was taking a single subject, putting it on a pad, and then nesting down, doing more detailed mind maps, right? So
That's correct.
starting at the most general level and then working into the branches and then further into the branches and further into the branches, right?
Yes, correct.
Which is a really elegant solution. I was using folded pieces of paper that were folded inside each other, and then the folding became crazy. So I love your solution. It was a great way
Oh,
to do it.
well, thank you.
Um, and you did all these by hand. You were not a computer mind mapper. You did it all.
By hand, correct. You will laugh. I went through 4 sets of colored Sharpie markers while doing that because it just,
Yeah,
just
they
you're
run
doing
out.
so much,
Yeah,
So, but it was, I would get strange looks, in the
yeah,
library and things of that nature, and thinking that I was coloring, and you see borrowed materials on a table, but it was working, and it just made it fun where I was seeing results. That was the whole thing,
yeah,
versus before.
yeah. Now, when it came time to actually answer questions, I think this is one of the things that people often ask me about. We teach a different methodology called an intuitive method for answering questions. Can you describe your process of answering an MBE question?
Yes. Basically, I would read the question carefully, and then go and read all 4 answers, and then just pick the answer. Whatever I
What do you
felt.
mean? Just pick the answer. I mean, didn't you sit there and labor over it and figure out wrong
N-
answers?
Not
No?
at all. I just, as soon as I knew it, I just did it, and that was
Right,
it.
right. And did you go back and review it a bunch of times later?
No,
No, no.
I would do it, move on, and didn't look at it, and never changed an answer.
Okay, now we'll come back to that in a minute. How long did it take you to do 100 MBE questions on the exam?
On the exam, I did. It was 2 hours and 30 minutes exactly.
2 hours and 30 minutes in the morning, 2 hours and 30 minutes in the afternoon.
And that's accurate, because I will tell you that when I walked out of that exam, someone had asked me, "When do the results come out?" And I said, "I have no idea," because when you stay the full 3 hours, you have to wait until they pick up everything, and then they
Right.
tell you how many sat for it, when the results may come out, and all the kind of stuff. And I had no clue, and I'm honest, it was about a week before I found out when they would actually come out.
Right. So, which has got its own sort of irony. But the
Yes,
beauty part of this is you're able to do these questions. A lot of people can't get 100 questions done in 3 hours because they're grinding through them, they're analyzing them, they're hyper analyzing, they're trying to remember the mnemonics, they're trying to remember the songs for the mnemonics, they're trying to eliminate wrong answers. But you didn't do any of that. You read the
no,
problem, then you let your non conscious brain, the mind maps, the photo reading, all of that work. If you saw the right answer for you just marked it. What if you didn't
correct.
see the right answer? What did you do at that point? If there's nothing jumped out at you immediately, what did you do?
Because of the having or doing the photo reading technique, I would read it one more time,
Hmm.
and then go back and just pick. I would just guess, and left it at that.
And you passed, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. See, there are people that go, "Oh, you can't pass the bar exam if you're guessing." Uh, you know, Exhibit A, James Botkins. So that part definitely is different. Uh, Completely different approach to taking the exam than what you had before. Now, you mentioned our boot camp, and I
Mhm.
want to talk a little bit about that. We brought students into Celebration for 2 days of live training. You mentioned Millicent St. Clair. She was my co-teacher from Learning Strategies. She is a featured TED Talk
Mhm.
speaker. She is
Yes,
probably the best or one of the best photo reading instructors in the world. And
absolutely.
she and I team taught for 2 days in a small environment. We're doing that again this coming June, and I think it's going to be a regular deal. I know we'll have some people that'll say, "Gee, I wonder if this boot camp would be worth it for me." What was your assessment when you were done?
It's very well worth it. I will tell you that I was reluctant when I received notification from you about it because I had I was doing it just myself online,
Right.
I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to go. I need this, and I said I'm just going to do it. And it was the best weekend I ever had. That driving back, I was so happy of like I have a tool that is going to be so helpful to me, and it was.
Yeah.
I will say this is that I still use photo reading right now, even though I took the bar. I had
Yeah.
like 4 books that I wanted to read, and I did that, and it's just a different mindset. I have a new habit now in using
Yeah.
all those techniques. So you can use it in everyday life, just not the test.
Yeah, absolutely. So in boot camp, we taught photo reading, and then we taught mind mapping. So you did some mind maps while you were at boot camp, right?
Yes,
And then we
yes,
had you practice on some MBE questions, so you got that opportunity as well. So
yes.
you actually left boot camp having photo read some subjects, done some mind maps, done some questions. That was pretty intense work, wasn't it, for a couple of days?
Yeah, I will say was exhausted. I mean, day 2 felt like the bar exam,
Yeah,
going on the second day, but I knew that this was important. I knew it was
yeah,
very important
yeah,
to, take the techniques and get a better understanding of the photo reading and using it, in the way that Millicent had talked about, and it was
yeah,
working.
yeah. This is an awesome. I mean, it's an awesome story. Tell me a little bit about what it felt like when results came out. Can you tell me how you found out about your results?
Yes, actually, I was driving, and, I was sitting at a stoplight, and I got a notification on Twitter that the Florida Supreme Court had posted the scores, and it was very early. And
Yeah,
they had, when I found out from another individual that it was going to be at 10 a.m., and I think it was 8, if I'm not
it was 8
mistaken.
a.m. Yeah, it was 8
Yeah,
a.m.
yeah. And I clicked on the link, and as I clicked on the link, the light had changed, so I pulled over into a church parking lot, and hit the PDF file, and it was, of course, it's on my phone. You're not on your I'm not on a laptop, and I started scrolling down looking for my number, and all of a sudden, all I could see was the word pass and yes, and I broke down and cried in the car for several minutes, and then I didn't believe that I did, and I kept looking at it and kept looking because I will just tell you, everyone else around me, the word it was fail. There was no passage whatsoever on the page that I was on, and so I was like so happy, and I kept verifying my number. And then after that happened, um, I just until about noon or 1 o'clock, I didn't start just smile. I had just a smile that stayed on my face the whole time. I couldn't stop smiling, and it hit me that you did it, and it
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
great feeling.
Well, let's go back to Rocky for a minute.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about Rocky?
Yeah, there's a great scene in Rocky in where, of course, Rocky's the underdog, and his goal was to go the distance, and if he could go the distance with him, then he would get the respect, of his peers. And so there at the very end, that's a great clim- climax scene in where he says, "Yo, Adrian, I did it." And so when I went to the Celebration Bar Review Facebook group, I found a GIF of that and I posted it and I tagged you in it that I had
Yeah,
passed the MBE.
yeah, yeah. And I had put up a GIF earlier of Burgess Meredith, Rocky's corner man, saying, "You can do it, Rock." So we did have great faith in you and great belief in you. You worked so hard, and I know that like everyone else, there's hard parts of this journey. You had to deal with some personal issues, some family issues, some things that were going on in your life. It wasn't like you could just put life on hold while you studied for the bar, right?
Yes, correct. My girlfriend was very, very supportive, best girlfriend ever, as it related to bar studies. And she and I had spoke prior to taking your course, and I had told her about you and everything. And she said, "Man, he sounds like he's the best, and you should go with him and do it. And I know you'll be successful." So we had our game plan. You have a video on your website about informing spouses
Yeah.
about what the journey is going to be like. So she was 100%, and she's a school teacher, and she was teacher of the year not too long ago. Teaches
Wow.
honors world history, and to prepare students for college. So I had her in my corner, so it was great. And my parents, they were in my
Mhm.
corner as well too. So as I begin the process with Celebration Bar Review, I'm a month into it, and unfortunately, her mother had melanoma cancer, and
Mhm.
so it was treated, and it had gone into remission, and everything looked very well for her. So then, about a month later, 2 months now into the studies. There was a concern that they saw something on her brain that dealt with three specks, but they felt, hey, you're probably okay. Don't worry about it, and that it would that they would look into it. So then they go and they find out that it's on her brain, and so they were going to do radiation and treat it, and said that they had very high success rates in doing that type of treatment. So I would eat with her and have motivational talks, and she was motivating me to, and about I'm going
Mhm.
to make it, and those kinds of things. And so she's a month into it and so forth. And about in mid June, unfortunately, she had to have emergency brain surgery because the lesions started to bleed. And so as a result, she had to have that surgery to relieve the bleeding, and they didn't know what was going to happen because the brain is very unique. They're still trying to understand it and figure it out, and those types of things. And in any event, they wanted to see how she was going to improve the next couple of weeks. So when we got into July and I was past the deferral timeline, and it was now at this point there was nothing he could do for that. It had just taken over her body. Is that she was going to have to just rest comfortably at home, and pass away. And unfortunately, she did on July 17th.
Mhm.
And so with having that going on, and having text messages every day while studying to keep me notified of her status. And some days were better. Some days she was doing better and getting better, and then other days she'd have bad days. So uh, I had that on my mind, and then I had this, and so I felt I was just torn because I felt bad and guilty that I'm studying, and then I can't be there as much. But what to do? And I know that. When we spoke, you had told me various students had lost children because of cancer and took the test
Yeah.
and passed. Others had postponed it,
Yeah.
and and took it later. And so I went in there, and I was like, I got to do this, and I took it, and I was short 133. So, um, but that didn't discourage me, and I was like, I'll just come back and do it again. And I will say, going
Yeah.
into that test, I didn't sleep the night before, and it had nothing to do with trying to memorize or do anything different than your course. But I was so excited that I had such big results with
Yeah.
your course that I just was exhausted that morning, but then felt totally comfortable in the afternoon. So that's what I had my circumstances.
Yeah, and you build on that. And I wanted you to tell that story because I think sometimes people think it's a straight linear shot that, everything goes well, everything's perfect, it all comes together. The real point here, the reason I love the fact that you're wearing the Rocky shirt is I think it's emblematic of your struggle. I think also of her struggle. And we don't do this stuff in a vacuum. We don't study in a vacuum. We don't take the test in a vacuum. And it is, we have to respond to the circumstances and the challenges that we face. And you can let those challenges overwhelm you and beat you down. You could give up. You can become discouraged. You can, start pointing fingers. But that wasn't you at all, James. You got right back in and said, you know what? I know what happened. I know why I didn't get those last 3 points, and I know how to get them this time. And then we build on that with the tools that we've been talking about, photo reading, mind mapping, and the boot camp and paraliminals and so on. And it was very clear to me that you were going to pass this time, and you did. And I think that that's a real tribute to your perseverance and to your just the quality of person that you are. I also think that probably is indicative of the kind of lawyer you're going to be. I love lawyers that are fighters. I love the ones that are willing to, get in there and throw a punch and take a punch. And I think that's going to be the kind of member of the bar that you are. So I'm very, very proud of you. I
Oh,
know
thank
you know
you.
that, but I want to say that publicly. I'm pleased whenever any of our students pass. I'm pleased, but there's some that you're just really rooting for because you know that the backstory is so compelling, and your backstory really is compelling. And I know that you threw yourself into this with everything you had. And gosh, how does it feel when you realize that moment? It's all come together.
It was a great feeling. I will tell you everything. you said, it came together that day when I went in and took it. I mean, I'm sure if you would see in the emails I sent, I told you I passed,
Yeah, you
and
did.
I knew I did, and
You did.
and
That was an easy prediction.
yeah,
He
I
says he
just knew it.
passed. He passed. Yeah,
Yeah, and I knew it, and I never had any negative thought from when I took it up till then, and I couldn't remember anything afterwards. Everything that you said that emotionally that you would go through, I did, and but what I did was just trust the process of your course and allow that to happen and not fight it. Let it just happen, you will get there. And also with the situation with my girlfriend is that the way I kept my mind in staying in the groove in taking the exam was is that what if you're a lawyer, you have those same issues too all the time. There's
yeah,
plenty of lawyers out there who've had issues with their family or a child or a spouse, and so how are you going to deal with it? So I took it that way. It's like, look, you have to be strong here. You have to not panic and not stress and so forth, even though that's there, but maintain it and control it. And it was the paraliminals, it was the mind mapping, it was having our weekly coaching calls, things of that nature that kept you in check and not lose sight of what you were trying to do.
that's cool. Well, this conversation's gone longer than we usually do, but
Oh,
your story is so great, and I think the insights that you have to share are so wonderful. So thank you very much for sharing your time.
no, thank you, because this is my last bar exam, and you were right the whole time. And I just wish to God I knew you before I took that other bar review.
Well, I'm glad that we did get a chance to meet. I'm sorry
Yes,
it happened
absolutely.
under those circumstances, but I'm glad we got that opportunity. And I really look forward to seeing what you do with your membership in the bar. I think you're going to be a very special member of the bar. I'm looking forward to what you do and the imprint that you make here. I know you're going to stick around our extra mile group for our existing students in the Facebook group.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely.
And be a great resource to those folks. Maybe we can get you back in for the next boot camp to talk to them.
I would love to do that, and I will tell you, I'm going to hang my own shingle, so I'm just getting everything in order to do that.
Cool. That is so awesome. Well, listen, James, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations again. Go enjoy this moment, this feeling. Yo, Adrian, you did it.
Absolutely, thank you so much, Jackson. I greatly appreciate you and your staff because you guys care, and like I said, it was great.
Good. Well, thanks everybody for being with us. We'll be back next time for another great story and another great student. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.